Thank you very much for joining the press conference, where we would like to tell you about an extraordinary event that is called World Youth Festival 2024 that will take place in 2 weeks in the beautiful city of Sochi in Russia. And this festival will embrace 20,000 students from all over the world and Russia as well. So they are young leaders of business, of charity, of other like art, other public ways of life. And so these young talented people will just participate in, just take part in exciting workshops, discussions, and so they will be ready, to share their ideas. And the main goal for us is just to create a platform where these young people just ready implement their ideas for the brighter future. And so today we have actually 4 American speakers, so the 3 here and 1 is here. So it's just lucky people that are going to visit Sochi and to represent the US delegation over there, a total of 15 people. And we have Caleb Maupin, and also we have Christopher Helali and Elizabeth Pekin and Noah Shenk here. So we would like to start with a short 2-minute video to show just, the impression of the festival. And after that, the speakers will tell their opinions. And after that, we'll be happy just to answer all your questions. Okay, so we'll start with the video.
Namaste. Добрый день, дорогие друзья.
Hola, me voy a Rusia.
Hi, ik ga naar Rusland.
Hola, me voy a Rusia.
Hello, I am coming to Russia.
Salve, eu vou pra Rússia.
Dunia ini harus menjadi tempat yang aman, tempat yang bisa ditinggali oleh seluruh umat manusia tanpa memperhatikan perbedaan suku, etnis, agama.
One, the youth is the next generation, and we need to empower them in order to take up social challenges and to be able to solve issues.
Este es un encuentro único donde jóvenes de todo el mundo vamos a poder encontrarnos para debatir diferentes ideas y soluciones a los desafíos presentes y futuros.
Om meer te leren over hun culturen, maar ook de initiatieven die zij nemen om hun gemeenschap beter te maken.
В 2017 году в городе Сочи проводился Всемирный фестиваль студентов и молодежи. Я бы хотела предложить провести такой фестиваль еще раз.
Идея очень правильная, потому что такие события, они объединяют людей, признанно объединяют людей.
I will be going to Russia. I will be participating in the upcoming events. We love people of Russia.
Today, as the world faces global challenges, it is very crucial for us to come together and consolidate our efforts to make this world a better place. We are stronger when we are together.
Me voy a Rusia porque es importante compartir lo que hacemos en nuestros países y nuestras comunidades con el mundo.
This particular festival is the best place for us to promote peace and cooperation, and let us all young people throughout the world take this opportunity.
It is important for a young South African like me to come and participate in this upcoming event so that I get to learn of this amazing economy, which is a major global player.
Putujem u Rusiju jer je Rusija prava zemlja izuzetnih mogućnosti i puno aktivnosti za mlade. Ona je domovina novih kultura, naroda e religija.
Eu também vou para a Rússia porque eu quero participar da construção do novo mundo multipolar, da nova ordem mundial e do novo futuro compartilhado que nos espera.
So now the words go to Caleb Maupin, the chair of the US delegation, and he also represents the Center for Political Innovaton.
Welcome, everybody. My name's Caleb Maupin. I'm the founder of the Center for Political Innovation. And in October, I was deeply honored when the youth office of the Russian Foreign Ministry reached out to me about forming a national preparatory committee for the upcoming World Youth Festival set for March in Russia. As someone who attended the World Festival of Youth and Students in 2013 in Quito, Ecuador, someone who attended the festival that was held in Sochi in 2017, as an advocate of socialism, peace, and international cooperation, as an American patriot, as a Christian, and someone who strives to live according to the teachings of Jesus Christ, I considered this to be a great opportunity. However, it is the circumstances of our upcoming trip that bring us here today. As we meet here today, Jesse Neville, Penny Hess, and Omali Yeshitela have been indicted by the U.S. Department of Justice. They are facing a possible 15 years in prison. Their trial date was just set for September. The Biden administration has charged them for doing what we are about to do, for going to an international conference in Russia. The Biden administration has declared that they're putting on some Zoom calls, writing some articles about Ukraine, that has been conspiracy to act as a foreign agent. And this case is absolutely outrageous. It's an attack on freedom of assembly, freedom to travel, freedom of speech, and freedom of association. And it's designed to intimidate Americans from doing what we plan to do, visit Russia and question U.S. foreign policy. In light of this horrific indictment, it is very important that we go to Russia to show that we will not be intimidated and to take responsibility for the future amid the utter failure of the Biden administration. Biden said he would end the war in Yemen, and as we all know, now that war is expanding and U.S. bombs are being dropped on Yemen. Biden has poured billions of dollars of American taxpayer money into Ukraine to prolong this war, at the same time that our bridges and highways are crumbling and our living standards are dropping and American working families are being squeezed by inflation. Under these circumstances, with Biden trying to intimidate Americans and weaponizing the Department of Justice against dissidents, and with international tensions rising, we have a duty to go to Russia and show the world another America. Because there are two Americas. Beyond Wall Street and Hollywood, in the vast territories of the American heartland, you will find a lot of hardworking people who love their children, love their communities, and want a better life. You will find an America that values peace, not war. It is this America that produced Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the Black Panthers, the great abolitionist John Brown, and it's this America that produced the labor movement that pushed forward Roosevelt, the great anti-fascist coalition that propelled the United States to align with the Soviet Union to defeat the menace of fascism in a great moment in history, also to align with China. It is this America, the America that's been hidden from mainstream TV, the America that has been canceled by the social media monopolies. It's this America of the working class, of small business owners, and people of many different races and ethnic backgrounds who reject war and the emerging low-wage police state. It is this America and its democratic traditions that I will be proudly representing in Sochi. There's a new economy arising in the world today centered around the BRICS, the Eurasian Economic Union, the Belt and Road Initiative of China, and the real America would benefit from joining with this new economy, trading with countries on the basis of win-win cooperation, and ending the wars, the threats, and the sanctions. The Center for Political Innovation sees Russia as an ally of the real America, and we call for the charges against the Uhuru 3 to be immediately dropped, and we look forward to making lots of new friends at the upcoming World Youth Festival, not just youth from Russia, but youth from the 188 different countries that will be represented at this vitally important international gathering. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we would like to hear Christopher Helali, Party of Communists, USA.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christopher Helali. I'm the International Secretary for the Party of Communists USA and the Vice Chair of the National Preparatory Committee in preparation to go to the World Youth Festival in Sochi. Of course, this is a historic moment. Our party, throughout its history, and of course, going back to the old Communist Party USA, have had many of our leaders study and travel to the Soviet Union, what was the Soviet Union, and now continue the tradition of international fraternity and building bonds with young people, with academics, with journalists, with people all over the world. And we believe, especially at this point in history, it is critical for young people around the world, regardless of their country's national policies, to be united in building a better world for the future. And we recognize, given the existential challenges that are facing our planet, the different countries in the world, and young people throughout the world, that it is vital for our participation and to build these ties. We look forward to our participation. We look forward to meeting with young people from all of the different countries. And of course, we want to show ultimately that as American citizens, we have every right to go and to travel to Russia, even at this difficult time between their bilateral relations. And we feel it is necessary in the spirit of peace and cooperation to be there and to show our solidarity with the people of Russia and with the young people around the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So now we would like to hear Elizabeth Pekin from the American Student Union.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Pekin. I am the National Secretary. Oh, sorry. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Pekin. I am the National Secretary of the American Student Union, and I am a member of the American National Preparatory Committee for the World Youth Festival. As students, we've grown up with a lot of anti-Russian propaganda, not just our generation, but our parents' generations. For those of us that were born in Generation Z, our parents, Gen X, baby boomers, they were constantly told that the Soviets were going to bomb them at any moment, but that didn't happen. And today, actually a couple of years ago, back in February 2022, I went to an event at a local high school, and kids were given these QR codes to scan to donate to Ukraine and sort of guilted into it by the teachers. And as Americans, we have freedom of speech to express our views. We have freedom to travel, which I will be traveling to Russia to promote international friendship and cooperation, not just with Russia, but with all of the other people that are attending this festival. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And so we have one more speaker here. So it's Noah Shenk. He will speak from there. And he's also for the Center for Political Union here. So,
hey, everybody. My name is Noah Shenk. And one of the reasons that I am so excited to be able to join the World Youth Festival is that we will be able to meet with youth from the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Right now, it is illegal to travel to the DPRK under U.S. law, and that's really unfortunate in light of the escalations on the Korean Peninsula. We have to remember that the DPRK is a nuclear-armed country, and these escalations, they could be very dangerous. That's why I think it's so important that, in combination with the fact that I, as a Korean American, feel a deep kinship with the Korean people, and I want to see them joined, that's why it's so important for us to meet with them. We've published a book to give to them, and we want to really show them that there are Americans in the United States who do not hate the North Koreans. Not only do we not hate them, but we respect them. We admire their revolutionary tradition. We admire how they showed support for the Palestinian people in their struggle for liberation. We admire how they welcomed the Black Panther Party into their country and showed support for Black liberation and for the liberation struggles around the world. It's just going to be a real honor to be able to meet with them.
thank you very much. So we are ready to talk more, and so we are ready to answer all your questions, and I encourage you, of course, to ask our speakers, who are, just as I mentioned, lucky people to go soon to Sochi. So please go ahead, of course.
Thank you very much on behalf of the United Nations Correspondents Association for doing this briefing. My name is Edith Lederer from the Associated Press. First, I'd like to know whether the U.S. government has approached any of you about your trip and said, no, you shouldn't be going. And could you tell us how many Americans you expect to be going to this conference, and whether you're expecting a lot of Western European to also be going. Thank you.
Well, to answer your question, we have prepared the members of our respective organizations for U.S. government harassment. At this time, we are mainly looking at what's been done to the Uhuru movement and the indictment that has taken place against them. But we have gone over with our members what to do if the FBI comes to your house, what your constitutional rights are under such circumstances, and we expect such harassment. Now, there will be 15 members of the American delegation to the festival. I can't speak for the other delegations, but I know there are delegations from a number of Western European countries. We are the three organizations that form the National Preparatory Committee. That's the Center for Political Innovation, the Party of Communists USA, and the American Student Union. There are also other individuals that are attending the festival, due to a relationship with the Russian embassy, et cetera. But it will be 15 Americans total at the festival. Our understanding is there will also be some American guest speakers who are not youth, but are of a more adult age, who will be giving presentations.
Just a quick follow-up. Do you see what you're planning to do as any different from what the three people you spoke about have been arrested for?
Well, if you read the U.S. Department of Justice's indictment, what it lists is it says that because they attended a conference called the Anti-Globalization Conference that happened in Russia in 2014, and because they then convened some web conferences and Zoom calls, it alleges that this is spreading Russian propaganda and that they were acting as unregistered agents of a foreign government. And this indictment is a huge attack on freedom of speech, a huge attack on freedom of assembly. If the letter of the law, as they are trying to enforce it, stands in court, all kinds of international delegations, all kinds of political activism and dissident speech would be rendered illegal. And in light of the indictment, we're already hearing wider calls. There's been calls to indict people for pro-Palestine demonstrations. There's been calls to indict people for alleged links to China. And they are anxious to start prosecuting individuals who put forward views like the views that we put forward. We oppose war. We want a better relationship with Russia and China and Venezuela and all the countries that are currently being sanctioned and attacked by the American government. And this indictment should be a deep concern to anyone who values freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, and the democratic traditions that our country is known for. But I'm sure other speakers want to say some things. So.
I would just add that I have not been approached personally, but for other activist work, we have been approached. We've been stopped at the border. Many activists have been stopped at the border for traveling to Cuba, for traveling to Venezuela, for traveling to Nicaragua, for traveling like I have to the DPRK. And I believe it's very important to recognize that our participation at this event is something that is, for us, youth-to-youth diplomacy. It's an opportunity for us to meet with other young people and to be able to share our values and views and to hear their values and views. And so I don't think that there's anything in doing that that is criminal or should require us to be prosecuted for that. And I believe that some of these attacks that have happened by the U.S. government on different activists are politically motivated. And so we want to say that we won't be intimidated, as Caleb rightly pointed out, and that we want to be able to travel. We have a right to learn from others and to hear what they have to say and to hear their perspectives. And I think it's important, and we should have the right to share those perspectives and opinions with other students, with other young people, and with the broader American public.
Let's go ahead.
Thank you very much. Evelyn Leopold, I'm not totally I'm sorry. He called him.
Go ahead, please. Yep.
All right now. We'll start again. Evelyn Leopold, I'm not unfamiliar with this kind of gathering because 100 years ago in East Berlin, when I was living in West Berlin, I attended one, which was not serious but very humorous. But anyway, my question to you is, how strong do you advocate human rights? Because I understand advocating them in this country and not being punished for going to these gatherings, but do you do any of it in Russia or in North Korea? I don't see how you, in that context, justify the invasion of Ukraine. I realize it's been going on in small steps for a number of years, but as someone who, I'm not a world expert, but I follow fascism quite carefully, including that in Russia, and I suppose you do too, given your history and where you come from. So I'm just curious if you could dwell on any of that. Good meeting you.
I'm very excited about the fact that one thing we'll be able to do when we attend the festival is see Russia for ourselves and ask our Russian hosts about these issues that we so widely hear reported in American media. And I've been to Russia a number of times, and I can tell you the way things are reflected are not accurate. And we'll be able to see for ourselves about the human rights situation in Russia without the bias and distortions of mainstream American media. And we'll be able to ask our guides about this. We'll be able to talk to everyday Russians while we're there, and I'm looking forward to it. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to learn the truth beyond the deceptions of Western media. What do you think, Chris?
I would add that human rights language and human rights discourse has been used as part of asymmetric warfare, and that's recognized within the legal community. I'm a law student currently, and so we recognize that human rights has been used as an instrument of to further different policies, especially in the West. That's not to say that there aren't issues in every country. We recognize that, of course. But we also recognize that they're also part of the internal affairs of certain countries, and that it's not our job as young people to go there and to tell the governments what they should or shouldn't do based on circumstances that we might not understand fully or that might not be fully apparent to us. And of course, we also recognize that our media, our press, our educational institutions and academic institutions conceal parts of history to further a certain narrative. We are very well aware of this, and there is not a uniform understanding within academic discourse or overall within human rights discourse as to many of these things. So understanding that, we will go, like Caleb said, with an open mind. We will be able to interact with people, and we will see for ourselves.
Exactly. The human rights in Russia, that's for the Russian people to determine. Personally, I've never been to Russia. This is my first time going. And I can't just come as an outsider and then tell people, this is what I've decided I think human rights are and how I think you must implement it. Rather, I'm going with an open mind and seeing for myself, what is it really like in Russia? How are human rights there? What do the people think?
My name is Volodymyr Ichenko, National News Agency of Ukraine, Ukrinform. So, ma'am and gentlemen, do you feel comfortable communicating with representatives of a country that has attacked a neighboring state and bombs peaceful cities, including my native Kyiv, on a daily basis? Today, the Russian forces has fired 26 missiles at Ukraine. Is this somehow consistent with your youth policy of your organization? And Christopher, could you remind me of the beginning of the manifesto of Communist Party?
It's up to you guys if you...
Well, I want to say that I was able to attend the World Youth Festival in 2017 in Sochi, and one of the most meaningful meetings I had was with a delegation of young people from the Donetsk People's Republic. And at that meeting, they told me about what the Ukrainian regime imposed by the United States has been doing to their homeland for so long. The bombings, the food blockades. There is a monument called the Alley of Angels erected to all the children who have died at the hands of the Kiev government. And as an American, and I must say as a Christian, with my government pouring huge amounts of weaponry into that Kiev regime so that it could continue from the time of Euromaidan in 2014 right up to today to bomb and murder people in the eastern regions, I feel a moral obligation to take a stand against that. And that what the U.S. government is doing in prolonging this war, trying to keep it going as long as it can, just to hurt Russia for geopolitical reasons, it is morally reprehensible. And that meeting that I had with the young people from the Donetsk People's Republic was very meaningful. And I look forward to other meetings with the people from the new republics that Russia has moved in to protect and that have voted to join with the Russian Federation.
I would add that I have met with many Ukrainians over the past, not just for the past few years, for many years. In fact, after the coup in 2014, we met with trade unionists. We met with the Communist Party of Ukraine, which has now been outlawed, by the way. But we met with many of them, and we were able to hear from on the ground the contradictions and problems within Ukrainian society. And so we recognize, of course, the situation on the ground. Our party, of course, recognizes that history works in a different way than portrayed in the mass media. Of course, we have been protesting NATO since its inception as communists. But we recognize, of course, that this war isn't just a war between two nations. It's a war between one nation and a bloc of nations. And so I think that in that perspective, it's very important to understand and recognize what we view as the correct history and how we understand it, not only from the outside, but also in speaking to many Ukrainian communists and anti-fascists who, of course, don't like with Bandera's portrait being portrayed in public offices and government buildings.
But do you remember the beginning of the manifesto of the Communist Party? Do, quote, please.
You may check it later online if you'd like. So let's maybe proceed with the festival
Not
and
a
without
communist.
political.
You're a
Thank you very
communist.
much for the question and the opportunity. So please go ahead.
My name is Nizar Aboud of Al Mayadeen Television in Lebanon. My question is regarding what's going on in Gaza today, Palestine, and I wonder whether any representative from the Palestinians will be attending this gathering, also from Israel, if any youth are coming to this. And how will this youth gathering be tackling the conflict which is going on for over 4 months now?
I'll just say that I can't speak to that. I don't know about whether or not there will be a Palestinian or Israeli representative who attends, but I did attend the International Council of the World Youth Festival that was held in November, and I will say that many times the international guests broke into chants of free, free Palestine, and what I heard at the International Council of people that were leading delegations was a lot of very pro-Palestinian sentiment, but that may not be universal, and so, I guess we'll have to see who comes. I'm not in charge of bringing international delegations. I only represent the American delegation.
I would add that our organizations, respectively, outside of this delegation to the Youth Festival, of course, are in support of Palestinian liberation. We have traveled. I have traveled to Lebanon and met with delegations there. I have traveled to Palestine and met with delegations there. We are hopefully will be returning in the fall to Lebanon to meet with our comrades there. And of course, we recognize that the Palestinian question and the ongoing genocide today that we see is a result of not only Zionist policy, but also the United States. So we recognize and implicate this country. And many of us are involved in our student life, in our campuses, amongst young people in demonstrations and protesting. And we recognize the great injustice that has been done to the Palestinian people. And of course, having been there, having seen it, on the ground and having seen the apartheid situation, and from a legal perspective, listening to other lawyers and intellectuals on it, we recognize that it is a just cause and we will continue to fight for the Palestinian people.
Hi, Shidochi with China Central Television. Well, communication is always a good thing, but for a very obvious, thing here, your opinions are not really mainstream American opinions. So you are going to have the conversation with people in those countries. And what's your plan to make those messages heard by Americans? And do you think you can make a difference?
I have to respectfully disagree with you and say that I think we do have opinions that are in the mainstream because the overwhelming majority of Americans do not want a new war. The overwhelming majority of Americans think we've already dumped too many weapons and too many billions of our tax dollars into Ukraine. Maybe they're not ideologically where we're at, but in terms of being angry about the condition of our country, while our government is so focused on escalating international tensions around the world, I think we're pretty solidly in the mainstream.
I would add that our opinions are suppressed on purpose. It's not like we are given open access and we're able to go and speak our minds whenever we want. For those of us who interact with the press on a regular basis, I myself, who am in Vermont and I ran for Congress, even as a congressional candidate, I was not given the same platform as major party candidates were, even though I ran on the communist line in 2020. So it's really important to understand that it's not that we don't want to get out there and don't want to speak. It's that our speech is severely curtailed and limited. And even we have been blocked from speaking in certain venues. We've been canceled as a result. But we will do whatever we can do, using whatever media that we can, to continue to promote different perspectives and ideas. I think that that's the rich tradition of this country.
At the World Youth Festival, we will be interacting with other people in person without all of the distortions that you get from the internet and the media, the catchy news sound bites, the algorithmic suppression on social media algorithms. We get to talk face to face and show people what we believe.
Thank you. Let's proceed.
Thank you, Stefano Vaccara, La Voce di New York and Ital Press Agency. First question, I have two questions. One, what is the age limit to participate in this event? And then I have a question about not to the communists or to whatever, to the Americans. They're here. I have a question on. We have a Wall Street Journal journalist, pretty young, I think. Ivan Gershkovich is 32 years old, I think. He's been in now almost a year. He's been in prison, detained in Russia, with accusation of being a spy. He was doing his job as a journalist. He's not had a trial yet, and we don't know how long it's going to be there. Now, when you have the possibility to be in Russia, what are you going to do to try to help a young journalist that he's detained in Russia at the moment?
May I just clarify about the first question? Are you planning to come as well? Are you planning to come as well? That's why, because you asked the age limit. So if you want to travel, so we can arrange that. So. Okay. No? So as far as we know, so yeah, the age limit is like the youth to participant is 35 years old. So all of the above, the people may go as speakers or consultants or something like that as experts. As for the second part of the question, it's up to you. So
Sure.
just, yeah.
Well, I want to correct you. You said that some of us here are not Americans. All of us up here are Americans, and we represent the best tradition of this country, from the abolitionists to
No.
labor
I didn't say
struggles.
that you are not American.
Okay.
I say, as an American. The
Okay.
question is to American citizens,
Okay.
to you, to Americans.
Okay. And I will say that, I will ask our Russian guides and the people that we meet in Russia about that case. And I'm sure they're going to have questions for us, too. They're going to ask us about Julian Assange. They're going to ask us about Tara Reid, who's had to flee to Russia to avoid persecution by the Biden administration. They're going to ask us about Edward Snowden. And I think that there will be some important conversations that will take place at the festival.
I will also add that I don't know the. Once again, we are not privy to the information that the Russian government has, that the U.S. government has. We don't know the situation. I can't make an assessment on that, whether they're guilty or not. That's for a court of law to decide, ultimately. I mean, we don't know. I mean, there have been young people who have been spies before. There have been young people who've done great things, young people who've done horrible things. We don't know the situation. So it's up to the court. It's up to the court and the governments to decide what is the information, what do they know. For example, I've lived in China for 2 years without issue. I studied in China. I went to the DPRK without issue. I just think that sometimes if there are issues, there might be information that we are not privy to.
But we don't know. They didn't have the they are not telling us.
I also don't know. We can ask questions, which of course we will do, and that's, as critical thinkers, we will ask questions. But ultimately, that's beyond our pay grade, as they say.
Thank you very much. So, Alan?
Thanks so much. I have a question. My name is Alan Bulkati. I'm a correspondent of the news agency RIA Novosti, Russian news agency. I have a question to Mr. Maupin. You mentioned that you visited Donetsk and Luhansk, and you mentioned all the events which were happened before the recent conflict in Ukraine. I mean, you talked about the coup in 2014. So I'm wondering, do you believe that the U.S. Youth, young people, have the right perspective of the root causes of the conflict which is occurring now in Ukraine? What do you make of that? And are you going to somehow spread the information you got from the site? Thank you.
Well, just to clarify, I was able to meet with young people from Donetsk and Luhansk at the previous youth festival. And I have visited Yalta in Crimea, but I have not myself visited Donetsk and Lugansk. But I would love that opportunity. But as far as spreading the message and young people here not having the truth, we at the Center for Political Innovation, we're not a political party, we're not an activist organization, we're an education project. And we have convened conferences and events and given platforms to many important individuals to spread the truth about what's really going on and to get past the distortions of American media. And we intend to continue doing that because there is so much that people don't know. And if you look at how important that interview that Tucker Carlson was able to do with the Russian president was, it was a tremendous breakthrough because that will be the only time that American young people will ever hear anything other than the standard American media line about the war in Ukraine. And if you look at the response to that Tucker Carlson interview and how basically the liberal establishment, I mean, is pretty blatantly calling for Tucker Carlson to be imprisoned for doing that interview, that shows how afraid they are of the message. Because when you actually dig into the facts about what's going on in the conflict in Ukraine, it doesn't match the CNN narrative. And so that's why what we're doing is so important, because when people look into the actual details of the conflict, and when you explain what's actually been taking place in Donetsk and Lugansk for so long, if you explain the 2014 coup, people are much more open-minded. And mainstream media doesn't want to have that conversation. They want to, their narrative of events is that, you know, one day Putin was having a bad day, so he decided to roll into Ukraine. That's not what happened, right? And there are actual facts that Americans need to know, and we are very honored to have the privilege of making Americans aware of the facts.
Thank you very much. So as far as I see, no questions more, yeah. So thank you for the attention and just have a good day.